Welcome to a Monday edition of In the Interim. I'm Interim Dean Bruce Mueller, and I welcome you to this program where we talk to alumni and VIPs from around the country uh, who are related to pharmacy, the careers of pharmacy, and we bring them in this sort of pandemic times to meet with our students and our alumni and any other guests that we have on the program to talk about their unique part of what they do. Today, I'm really thrilled to have Dr. Andre Harvin. He serves as Director of Pharmacy Oncology for Cone Health in Greensboro, North Carolina, which I'm guessing has less snow than what we have here today in Ann Arbor. In his current position, he oversees the clinical, operational, and financial performance of the cancer care service line, including ambulatory, specialty, and acute care services. Andre completed his PharmD here in 2013, and then went south and did a residency at a place in Columbus. And I can't say much more about that university. It's just south of the University of Michigan. But he did a health system pharmacy administration, PGY1, PGY2 combination residency, and he also got his master's of health system pharmacy administration there. And I do want to talk about that as a career path. We've never had anybody with that career path before. But he's held jobs in all kinds of roles, and I want to explore his career choices. He's been an administrator, he's been in industry, he's been a practitioner, he's done about it all. And I'm so happy to have Andre Harvin here today to speak with us. Welcome to In the Interim.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Well, not only are you happy, but you've got this crazy background. What in the world are we looking at here?
Yeah. So I said, I've got to find a background that elicits a little bit of conversation. Everything that's going on here with the pandemic, you could find maybe I put the virus back there or some vacation shot of this is where I'm going to go when it's all over. But I thought to myself, I said, what's been the most compelling storyline of 2021 and 2020? And I came back to Wall Street Bets. So this is the logo from Wall Street Bets on Reddit. And if you haven't heard, like the big thing around like GameStop and how it was like so much money, I will say I got pulled into this very early by my brother-in-law. He's like, you gotta put money in GameStop. And I'm thinking, I remember when GameStop came out and it was pretty crappy back then. Yeah, Dogecoin to the moon. I got a lot of that too. So he actually reached out to my wife and I when it was about $40. And I will say I have never had more fun throwing money away since the last time I was in Vegas, probably.
As long as you know you're throwing it away, and as long as you know that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, no, I know. We made a lot. It was a lot of fun. And what I'll say is it helped me connect with my brother-in-laws. So both of them were really big into it. Made my wife learn a lot more about stocks and said, maybe I shouldn't keep spending so much money on these things that aren't worth that much and put more into the stock market. I'm like, yeah, it's a good thing for us to think about. But it's been a ton of fun. I feel like it's probably one of the more kind of light and fun things that's happened over the last year and a half. And when I think back, that, like I said, it's probably the most fun I've had since before the pandemic. So I said, I just gotta pay some respect to Wall Street Bets. It's been a fun ride.
Well, I'll tell you, we started a personal finance course elective at the College of Pharmacy since you left. And we have been talking about these issues in that class, which is kind of weird because people, like, I'm not trying to teach them to get rich quick. That isn't necessarily the idea. So it's kind of weird to have, these different things we can invest. GameStop. Who'd have thought GameStop would be a thing? Even nobody, right?
I think the CEO of GameStop sitting around saying what's going on right now. So hopefully he got paid in stock and is having a good time. But it also shows the other side of it. So people that bought it when it was $300 and $400 are not too happy right now. So you're right. It's an investment. You put it in. But again, it's been fun. And I don't think I've ever been glued to my phone as much looking at different stocks ever in my entire life. But it was fun while it lasted. Probably going back to normal life now.
Welcome to this edition of Stock Picks by Andre Harvin. Well, I'm hoping that's not your career advice there. Your career advice, everybody, isn't trading stocks on a daily basis. I'm hoping. But walk us through the career, because honestly, for someone who graduated not that many years ago, you've sure got an impressive resume.
Yeah, done a lot. I don't know if it's impressive, but it's extensive, right? so that's probably what I like to say. So yeah, taking you through, and I see Jim Stevenson is on, so he's probably one of my big influencers. But when I was in fourth year residency. So the story really quickly is that I was actually on rotation with Jim. At the time, he was the chief pharmacy officer there at University of Michigan. Great time. You know, he saved me from working under this guy named Phil Brumman, who was there back in the day. No, still love Phil too, and John Clark. Great people, all
Well,
great people.
friends of the college.
Yeah, absolutely. But it was one of those things, and I remember just learning so much from all three of them at the time. And it really was, hey, looking at your career path. I think it was John that said it very kind of succinctly: either pay me now or pay me later. And so his advice was to look at different residencies that were out there in the health system pharmacy administration and leadership pathway. That was something I was very interested in. Was very kind of driven at that point in my life. Like, I want to be a director. I've got to be that high level position as quickly as possible. That's what I wanted. And actually, when I was on rotation with Jim, is when the school down south visited University of Michigan's Department of Pharmacy, and that's how I met the RPD, who was Nisha Griffin at the time. And so, little did I know that meeting would set me up for my career path. And I did cast a wide net looking at all the different HSPA residencies that were out there, and found my way down south a little bit. And it was hard on both sides, is because they didn't, I don't know if they really wanted a Michigan grad there. And, to this day, I tell people, if you go in there and you look at their wall of the residency graduates, to this day, under mine, it's like a real plaque that's on the wall. It's got my photo there, and it says Andre Harvin, College of Pharmacy, that school up north.
Is that
So
right?
yeah. So I kind of, I've been back a couple times, and I go, so you guys really not going to change that, huh? Like, it's just, it's been some years now. I can't get a real plaque up there. They're like, nope, it'll stay. But it
It's
was
a
fun.
fun rivalry.
Yeah,
But
it
how
was.
did you choose? So just going back, just for the students who are on, you kind of chose I'm gonna say an atypical residency, right? It's not the standard
Mhm.
PGY1, kind of residency. You went to get you committed to 2 years, you got a master's, and talk us through
Yeah,
that
it was,
decision.
honestly, it was probably easier because for my entire life at that point in time, I was interested of, I wanted to do leadership. And I'll say I was close to doing a traditional PGY1 residency. I knew I wanted to do residency, and really a lot of that came from my wife. And my wife is a pharmacist as well, and she had just graduated a few years prior to me and didn't do a residency immediately. And she was already seeing how the job market was shifting around that time, that if you wanted what was considered a good job at that point in time, and a little bit more security, a little bit more leverage, that residency was really the pathway that was developing very quickly. And I wasn't convinced that I was going to do residency, like I said, until I was on rotation with Jim. And both John Clark and Phil Brumman were both HSPA residents coming out of the Wisconsin program. And again, just that time of working with them all. I worked with Phil as kind of his pseudo intern. I was kind of the guy that did all his slides for him, made him look really good. Didn't have my name on anything. No, Phil knows I love him. And so it was always that pathway that was just developing, that I enjoyed it. I liked kind of data, the finance aspect of it. It was all very compelling to me. And then I would always step back and really think about the direction that pharmacy was going, and wanted to be someone that could impact our profession on just different levels at a higher level. And leadership was the pathway that for me is what's working. I wasn't saying that's the only pathway, but that's the pathway that I chose for myself. And so when I actually went to mid-year, I only really interviewed at maybe one PGY1 program, which was actually Henry Ford. And then everything else, I looked at the 2-year HS PAL residencies, and really came away saying that this is what I want to do. This is where I saw myself going. What's really unique about them is they give you that traditional PGY1 structure. And so people don't look at me nowadays as a clinician. I've got, board certification in pharmacotherapy specialist, but the truth is, you don't want me doing too much with our oncology patients right now, because that's not what I get to do day in, day out. But my first year in residency was very much structured like a traditional PGY1 residency. On top of that, I was going to school at the College of Pharmacy in their MHA program to actually get the degree. And then my second year really focused on leadership topics, finance, data information, clinical management, the HR aspects of it, to really bring it together to help create what I would say like a new generation of pharmacy leaders. So again, it was something that was probably always in me, that I wanted to do something leadership wise. It was whether or not I was going to go out into the work environment and work my way up, or if I was going to commit to that 2-year residency program and be able to come right out into maybe a more mid-level or higher level position. And so that was really the decision for me. And really, my wife was one that said, "Hey, look, you know, you might as well do it instead of having to go back or try to get another degree afterwards. They're going to pay for the degree if you go through the residency program. Just go ahead and do it, commit to it." And I will say, very tough decision to rank that school down south number one, but I did do it.
We have
And I
lots of
matched.
friends at Ohio State. We have
Yeah,
lots of
yeah,
friends there. But so, and it worked for you. So I want to say,
yeah.
if first of all, for our audience, if you've got questions, there's a Q&A button you can hit. If you got questions, send it to me, and we'll work as many in as we can during this talk. You finalize your project. You go to you go to Wake Forest Baptist for a couple of years, where you work as a manager, and then you start doing some other things too.
I did a lot of crazy stuff after that. Well, and that's kind of what I wanted to touch on, is that what I said I wanted to bring to the table is about finding your purpose. And again, like I said, I was very, very driven of I'm going to do this. I was on this very hard pathway of I'm going to do this residency, and in 2 to 3 years I'm going to be a director somewhere, and then I'm going to do this many years, and I'm going to go for a CPO or vice president role. And what I learned was I was constantly looking in other people's yards of, well, what are they doing? What kind of job they have now? When you're in these HSPAL residency programs, you get very competitive. And I graduated with 3 other guys and love them to death. They're like brothers to me, because we went through this 2-year hazing nightmare thing called a residency. And we were just constantly kind of just competing with one another. Even though there was a lot of love there, it was, how much are you getting paid? What's your title? How much autonomy do you have? All these kind of things. And as I was driving myself more and more and more, like, I need to get to that next level. I need to get to that next level. I finally actually took a step back and asked myself, was I happy? And was I feeling purpose in the role that I had? And I wasn't. So I actually stepped back and realized that, one, at the time I was 300 plus pounds. I had gained a ton of weight, and I'm not that tall. So I was, morbidly obese. I was, sleep apnea. My wife's like kicking me out of the bed at night because I'm snoring like a freight train. I'm working just obscene hours, 6 to 7 days a week, all these kind of things. And really, at that point in time, I'm like, okay, I'm chasing these ghosts, right? I'm constantly just competing with my co-residents. I'm competing with other people that had done the residency at the same time. I'm looking at all these other people's LinkedIn pages of, well, okay, in 2 years they were into this role by that point in time. And I really did. I had to say, okay, Andre, are you happy with the direction you're going? Will another title, a higher title, more salary make you happier? Or, are you just going through this whole motion because you told yourself that was how you define success? And at that moment, I realized, no, like I said, my health was declining. My marriage was, I wouldn't say in trouble, was definitely getting on the rocks, because I just wasn't present. And look for a change. And what's hard is that, with my wife being a pharmacist as well, and during that time I went to residency, she went back and got her MBA. So she had a role in the area as a leader. She was doing well, enjoying her career. I couldn't at that moment just say, okay, let's just pick up and leave and go somewhere else again, because I realized I don't like what I'm doing, and I'm having, for some reason, a very early midlife crisis to a degree here. I don't really know what to call it, but it was definitely like a moment where, looking around, I just realized I didn't like the pathway I was on. I didn't like what was driving me, because I think it was just the position, the title, those kind of things that really it wasn't going to amount to much.
So what was your purpose?
I didn't find it yet. And so I found it now. But at that time, I just realized that the only thing I was doing was trying to get in there and get a title. I mean, that's really what it was. I was showing up every day, working hard because I said, oh, they're going to see it and then they're going to promote me. And I'm going to be an assistant director and I'm going to be a director and I'm going to beat my co-residents or I'm going to make a lot of money, these kind of things. But I wasn't enjoying it. What was getting me up for work every single day was very superficial. And so at that point in time, I jokingly said, I'm just going to go on a journey to look at something different. And I didn't know if it was going to be in health systems anymore, which was tough for me because I'm thinking, okay, I just did this residency that was specifically set up for health systems, it's right in the title. And I just wasn't convinced that health systems was where I wanted to be. And, I won't belabor it, but where I was at that time was going through their own changes. There were leadership changes. I was questioning, even from the organizational pathway, what direction we were going in, what was really valuable, what my role was there. And I just realized, like, if I'm sitting here questioning this now, I'm not really sure if it's going to get better. And I reflected on advice that came from the CPO at that school down south during my residency program, where he told us directly that, hey, your generation is going to move. You guys are going to be more fluid in your roles than my generation, because for him, success was, hey, I'm going to go somewhere and I'm going to be there for 35 years. And I'm going to have a pension. I'm going to have a fat, retirement account, and I'm going to go. And he told all of us, and we kind of joked it off, and now it's not really a joke for any of us, that one, we'll probably get fired at some point in our career as we go higher and higher up the food chain, because we'll become more visible, and that we needed to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, meaning that we would probably pick up and leave at some point in our career, and that was going to be okay. The other aspect that I really pulled from my grandfather, as I was coming to this decision, was that I really needed to understand my own values and morals, and whether or not the work that I did aligned with that. And obviously, as pharmacists, I think we are, we're all a decently moral bunch, I would say. And, we think what we do is very altruistic to a degree, and we're helping people. But as you go to different levels, you can start to see that people's intention aren't necessarily that great, and then you start to question your own intentions as well. Like, so am I playing that political game? Am I just trying to get as high as I can? And so I think all of that just really kind of weighed down on me. And I really did. I said, okay, I'm making the decision that I've been here for 2.5 years, and I know that's not a lot of time, and I know people may criticize that on the outside, but I'm going to just look and see if there's something else I can do that will appreciate my skill set and will appreciate my residency, even if it's not just going from another hospital or going to another hospital, and I'm going to take a chance. And that's exactly what I did. I just looked online, and obviously at that point in time, I was looking for other, pharmacy manager, operations, clinical management, these kind of things. And then I just actually started looking into PBMs and group purchasing organizations and even like pharma. And I just said, I'm just going to take a flyer and apply to OptumRx, which is the pharmacy benefits management group for United Healthcare, and had an interview with them, and honestly didn't know what I was doing. They were talking about a lot of things that I wasn't familiar with, but they said, hey, we're going to take a flyer because we feel like your experience is unique. This residency is unique. They've never had anybody with a residency before. And we can teach you things around pharmacy benefits management because you've got the finance background and you understand things from a data perspective. We're just we can teach you those things. And so I went on ahead and take that leap, work from home, and really enjoyed it. It was definitely a change of pace. I tell everybody one of the biggest things is that you start talking about money in a whole different order of magnitude. So when we're sitting down talking about deals, you're not talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars or even millions. You're talking about billions sometimes because of how big these companies are. But really enjoyed it and don't regret it whatsoever. And after that, it was just one of those things that I'm open to look at different opportunities out there and have always taken them as they've come towards me.
And you went to industry after that,
I
and then now
did.
you're
I
back
did.
to working in
Yeah.
the on a hospital. So
Yeah.
we have like 10 minutes or so left of the program, and I feel like I got a lot of story to
I
squeeze
know. I know.
into all this. And again, we're getting some questions from the audience as well, and I'd like to, one of them is, you kind of went back in your story more than I thought you were going to go back, but this pressure for the title, like, where was it coming from? Is it coming from you? Is it coming from social media? What, like, and when do you get the backbone, and how do you get the backbone to say, I have to find my purpose? Because I know that's something you wanted to talk about today.
Yeah, I think it was internal. I really do. I think it was, I was pushing myself to get something that was valuable to me, but I didn't realize that it wasn't that valuable. I really realized that it wasn't. And so, again, kind of going back to finding your purpose, what I learned in those two other stints was, one, I enjoyed them. I went to pharma after that because I just had a colleague that was there and reached out to me and said, "Hey, I think you'd be interested in this," and I took it. One of the big things that I realized with both roles is I lost my connection working with students and working with residents. And somehow it took me that kind of 2 year journey to say that what I really enjoy, and I tell people to this day, the most fun I have is having a resident on rotation with me, teaching them, completing projects with them, providing them advice, whether it be career, whether it be personal, and helping them, telling them about my story, making sure they're not chasing things for the wrong reason, asking themselves, hey, why do I get up every day and come in here? I want to create an environment where I work that young clinicians, whether it be students or residents, can come in and find themselves, find their purpose, and maybe consider a career path that they hadn't thought about before. So when we have a student that comes in and they say they're afraid of oncology, and it's the worst module that they have, and my team and I can work with them and just help them break it down into those more simple pieces, help them understand that it's a lifelong journey that they can grow in, and really connect them back to those patients that are so vulnerable and really require a very engaged team. That's what really gets me out of bed every single day. And I don't get to work with students every day. We'll have maybe 6 to 7 students a year. I've got 2 PGY2 residents that work under me. I also have 2 HSPAL residents that'll all go on rotation with me. So I don't have students consistently, but when I do, it's the most fun I have. And I love it. And to this day, I probably wouldn't trade it for anything at this
Well,
point.
we'll have to talk to Paul Walker about setting up a rotation down with the good Dr. Harvin.
Yeah,
This time of the year, people be ready to get out of Michigan. So,
yeah, yeah.
who knows, right?
I wish I could tell you it's warm here, but there's no snow.
All right. Well, in the remaining few minutes here, you got a new position. You told us what's fun, but you and I talked earlier. You're doing some different things too. You're doing a lot of stuff with respect to COVID. You're
Mhm.
reaching out to your community. So you talk about some of the things you're doing now and what's motivating you to do that.
Yeah, and I'm having a great time right now. I'll say that. So stepping into this role, I'm the only Black director at my facility, and it's something that, to be honest, I've lived with that for essentially my career. Is that very rarely do I see faces that look like mine, at the table in the audience, and I know it's something that as a society we continue to grip with, and what I found just a special enjoyment lately is that my chief pharmacy officer and the VP that I report through, both of them said, "Hey, this is something that you can really lean into because it's valuable to the community, specifically here in North Carolina, and I think you'll find a lot of enjoyment from it." And to be very honest, that was a space that I kind of shirked away from very early, knowing that when you start talking about disparities and representation, it's a touchy subject. It's something that is hard for us all to have discussions around. And this has really kind of helped me come out of that shell of, I didn't want to, offend anybody. I didn't want to be seen on one side or the other. I think I was very much kind of playing the fence and keeping my head down. And this opportunity has really showed me that I have a responsibility, one, to use my position, my background, my expertise to help close those gaps and build those bridges. I am very fulfilled in what I do. So I've been on the news probably a dozen times at this point in time, and I do multiple sessions like this where I speak directly to underserved communities within North Carolina of what COVID is, what the vaccine is, getting past all the myths and the misinformation, the lack of trust that's there sometimes between the Black and Brown communities and healthcare, and really just lean right into those uncomfortable conversations, and just to use myself as a conduit sometimes for them to talk and to talk about their disappointment, their fears, whatever it may be. And I don't feel like I'm changing the world, but again, I feel like I start to find that purpose again. And so when I see opportunities like that now and it's identified for me, I'm marking it on my calendar because I think it's one of the great things that I get to do. And I've got a smile on my face the whole time. And afterwards, I'm saying, what else can I do? You guys want to talk to me, call me, whatever it is, let me talk to you so I can, help you cross this bridge of whatever is preventing you from maybe wanting to look at the vaccine or even talk about it.
We're going to have contact information because I think some of the audience are going to want to talk to you, and they're rolling in with questions. And so you had this existential crisis that you've sort of found your purpose. You kind of had it. All of us have to make that decision somewhere in our life, sometimes more than once. We all have. A question just came in. What advice do you have for someone who is just starting out, might not be able to get their dream job right away? How do you connect that process to your purpose?
It's a great question. So your first job is definitely not going to be your dream job.
I mean, you're lucky if it is, right?
Yeah, you'll be very lucky if it is. And I don't even know what my dream job is. That's the funny thing. I enjoy what I do right now. And again, I've found that purpose. But if you say, hey, is this your dream job? I go, I don't know. I think you have to make sure that you create those opportunities. When you're early in your career, they're absolutely right. I mean, you have to find a way to motivate yourself. You don't want to just like mail it in. You've got to enjoy what you do. And there's absolutely ways to do that, even if you're not in that dream role. And sometimes it's just, caring for yourself. So it can be obviously taking care of your body, taking care of your mind. It could be building relationships with your colleagues, even if it's just for, hey, I'm only going to be at the job a couple of years and I'm going to get out of here. You can build those lasting relationships. It doesn't have to be connected to the title, the responsibilities, the pay. You're going to learn something from every stop in your life and in your career. I pull things from my time at Wake Forest and my time at that school down south, from PBM, from pharma. Everything that I do day to day, I'm pulling on those experiences, those lessons learned, those relationships built to help me be successful where I am today. And that's what my encouragement is for everyone to do. Every stop in your journey is valuable if you open yourself up to it and just see the value that's there. It may not be perfect, but you're going to learn something from it and it's going to be valuable for you.
Where do you get the courage to jump? I mean, you didn't make little jumps. Like, you took totally different jobs, sometimes in totally different places, in totally different realms, a little bit of pharmacy still in it. But I mean, when I talked with you, I'm like, holy cow, this guy has making more jumps than I am. I've only worked at two institutions. I've taken a lot of jobs within institutions, but you've really gone.
I think I took that whole like, hey, you're going to move a little bit too seriously.
You wanted to do it all in the first 10 years.
Yeah, I was like, I'm just going to run. No, it was. It's always been a leap of faith. And the funny thing is that, again, a weird connection is I learned it from my mom. So I know we don't have a lot of time left, but my mom was a person that went from she only had a high school education. She decided when she was 35, I'm going to go back to college and get into engineering. And then she went from being an electrician to working for like Northrop Grumman, right? There's this big change. And I watched my mom in a very short amount of time, because she just said, hey, if I'm not finding what I want here after I've worked my butt off to get it, I'm going to go somewhere that appreciates me. And I watched my mom go from here to here to here. And I was asking her too, like, are you sure it's not you? Right? Like, is it just because, like, maybe you're a little tough to deal with, or maybe you
You're
had too.
brave if you said that to your mom.
Yeah, I was over the phone, right? But no, and but I did, and she just said, like, "Hey, I've worked really hard to get where I am. I know what I want in my life and my career." Obviously, she went into it at a later stage, and so I got that bravery from her. She just said, "Look, I'm going to jump somewhere else, and they're going to use my skill set. I'm going to find what I want, and if it takes me moving so many times, then I'm going to get there." And again, now she is very successful, loves what she does, and I feel like I did the same. I don't regret any move. I'm glad that I made the moves when I made the moves. It's something that I think that everyone has to do. And what I tell a little bit of them is that, unfortunately, companies don't have a lot of loyalty to employees. And that's a really tough thing for people to hear, but it's true. And if we were to get into a personal finance discussion, I will tell you that you will make more money in your career by moving than by
Sure.
staying and getting your 2% raise every year. And then maybe you get a promotion, this, that, and the other. It's just the truth. And companies, it's not making everybody out to be evil. It is what it is. If you get your 2% every year, then you better be happy, and that's it. And so I learned that lesson. I saw that lesson with my first move. I was like, oh, I made a lot more money with this. Okay, interesting. And again, it's not all about money. It's not all about position. But I think after I made that first jump, I felt secure in saying that, okay, I can make sure I ask the right questions during interviews, really understand and assess what this opportunity is. And I would sit back and say, okay, am I okay now to make this leap and go ahead and make it if I want to? And I've turned roles down previously in my past life, and I'm happy I did that. And the ones that I took were the ones that I was really passionate about at the time, and said, yeah, I'd love to learn that. I'd love to get it.
Wow. This is the fastest half hour we've ever done this show, I'm pretty sure.
Talk a lot, man.
Well, Dr. Harvin, thanks for coming here and talking with us. Is it okay if our students or alumni
Absolutely.
reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. They will. I can tell you that right now. They will. Well, wonderful. I want to thank you for being part of this. And it's interesting because you talked about working with your community. Actually, our guest next week is going to be our own Dean Walker. You know, he headed up ASHP's Task Force on Racial Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And we're going to talk about that process and some of the things that you talked about, Dr. Harvin, and that is how do we change that people can look like anybody in any of these leadership positions that you're in. And I think you're talking about the same things and you're interested in the same things that we are, because it's certainly something that we're interested in ourselves.
Yeah.
Dr. Harvin's contact information is at the bottom of this slide you see here. And again, next week, it's going to be Monday, the day after Valentine's Day at 5:30, right here in my den. We'll talk to Dr. Walker about his work leading ASHP through this process. It's really interesting. Thank you so much, Dr. Harvin, for being on the program.
Thank you. Go
And I'll see the rest of you next week at our program.